What do you want to be when you're older? It's a question that we're asked when we're still just kids. Because a successful path through life starts with answering that question. So we pick something. And then we study it, and then we find a job and climb the ladder to success. But what if you picked the wrong thing? And what if you never really knew the answer in the first place? Now, I thought I wanted to be a product designer, so I went to study for 4 years in university. But I realized that I'd picked the wrong thing. Life in an office designing next year's new product wasn't really my idea of success. So, to fit my newly found cliché, I went to find myself. I booked a one-way ticket to South America with very little cash and my mum's credit card, just for emergencies. Now, I'd love to tell you that I went volunteering to make the world a better place, but really I was just looking for cheap places to stay. What I found completely changed my life. I found a small farm in the mountains of Ecuador, above the clouds at 8,500 feet. I found friends from all around the world living and working together. I found piles of scrap wood and boxes of rusty nails and a list of things that needed fixing. It was DIY heaven with breathtaking sunsets. So I decided not to continue traveling around South America, but to live on this little farm whilst I thought about that question. What do I want to do? And my friends asked me if you'd like to live in a teepee. So I said, okay, but I'd heard about this crazy idea to build houses out of bags full of earth, and I wanted to give it a try. Well, 4 months and $600 later, the Hobbit house was born, and I'd found something to do. We made the windows out of bottles, and the door is recycled from an old fridge, and there's a garden on the roof. This is what it looks like today, slowly being overgrown with passion fruit. So let's fast forward a year. Mum's credit card bill came, so I was back in England working in an office, sat in a chair all day looking at either a car windscreen or a computer screen or a TV screen, and I got an email from my friends at the farm. We're starting a new project, they said, a community center where we can offer courses, and we want your help. So I quit my job and I jumped on a plane. Now, I'd developed a bit of an obsession with Earthbags since making that little project, and as you can see, my degree came in very handy. I learned to use 3D modeling software, and so I can communicate my ideas. They told me they wanted a huge spiral with a central circular hall and rooms around the outside. So at the end of 2013, we started building. This is an aerial photo that we took by taping a small camera to a kite. Now, super adobe or Earthbags are a modern take on an ancient building technique. These are the houses in the local town. They pack wet earth into huge wooden forms to create the walls. Now, Earthbags use bags as the form and include 2 strands of barbed wire between each level to hold the whole thing together. It's a technique that's incredibly simple, it's earthquake-proof, and it can be used to make practically any shape of wall. But it's also a lot of work. We had an average of 4 people working for 5 hours a day, and it took us 14 months just to build the walls. We laid over 1 mile of Earthbags and mixed over 100 tons of earth by hand. Now, on any other building site, this slow pace would have seemed ridiculous. Heavy machinery would have been brought in to get the job done. But this wasn't any normal building site. We were all volunteers, so the only consequence of going slowly was that more people came to help and more friendships were formed. And the people did come at the most perfect times. For example, we were 12 months into filling Earthbags, and a group of volunteers left the farm to continue traveling. We were completely exhausted, with a lot of work left to do. The next day, 5 Argentinians arrived, completely bursting with energy, and we were mixing dirt and filling bags faster than ever before. One of the Argentinians also had contacts in a local foundation, and the next thing we knew, we had groups of school children coming and plastering the walls. We finished the walls in no time. The next job was to tie it all together with a huge concrete bond beam. Now, my product design degree didn't really cover reinforced concrete, but I was lucky enough to get picked up hitchhiking with a civil engineer. Half an hour later, I'd sketched everything out on scraps of paper as he nodded along. And together we over-engineered every doorway and every beam height and every piece of metal reinforcement bar. I couldn't believe my luck. Next came the roof. We built a reciprocal frame where all the central beams rest on top of each other, creating a skylight in the middle. We built a bamboo tripod and used pulleys to raise the columns and position the beams. And once again, we lost some key members of our team as they continued traveling. The next week, right on cue, a guy arrived from France who had spent his life building slate roofs with his father. Next came the roof cladding. We used flattened bamboo, first of all, to create a form. And on top, we used ferrocement. Ferrocement is a very thin layer of concrete that's reinforced with chicken wire. It's a technique that was first used to build boats. So it's incredibly strong and lightweight, and crucially, it's watertight. But perhaps most importantly for us, it's also really easy to do. We didn't have to install thousands and thousands of roof tiles. It was as simple as spreading the icing on the cake. Four architects and 3 engineers came to visit over the course of the project, volunteering on the farm, all of whom cast their trained eyes over the drawings and made their suggestions. And we also invited an Ecuadorian architect, an expert in natural building, to come and make his suggestions. He suggested we added a steel tension cable through the tops of the columns to stop any outwards movement. All of our power tools were powered by the sun. But the batteries in our solar system were old and tired, so the power tools we had were great between the hours of 11 and 1, and as long as the clouds didn't come over. Hundreds of holes became thousands of holes because with an underpowered drill you have to make a tiny hole, and then a slightly bigger one, and then a slightly bigger one again. It was crazy. So we ran a successful crowdfunding campaign to buy new batteries, which changed everything. You can't imagine the joys of drilling holes all day without the power dying on you. Over 400 volunteers came to help on this project, most of whom found us online. But the internet didn't just bring the people, it also taught us how to build. My job as the designer was mainly research. I searched through hundreds of videos and tutorials and forums, finding people who had freely given their knowledge. And I combined their tried and tested techniques into a design, which I passed on to the team. So I think that the most difficult part for me was the temporary nature of our team. Every 2 weeks, we were training new volunteers how to fill Earthbags or how to mix lime plaster or treat bamboo. But I think this really goes to show just how simple some of these techniques really are. The people that came to this farm and brought this building to life all came searching for something. Many were aimlessly wandering, and many were just looking for cheap places to stay. And some are trying to change the world. But I think that what every one of us found was a truly fulfilling experience and a reconnection with the outside world. We got our hands dirty and breathed fresh mountain air with the sun on our backs. We lived, worked, and learned together. So back to that little question, what do I want to do when I'm older? And honestly, I still don't have a clue. But that no longer scares me like it once did. I no longer define success as the top of a ladder, but as the small changes that we can make every day that come together to create something really quite big. There are many ways to change the world. It doesn't have to cost a fortune to travel. So, go volunteer.